Picking up where we left off in the historical city of Santa Ana with its gorgeous colonial architecture nestled amidst the rolling hills and countryside of western El Salvador. Santa Ana is more than just a beautiful city, it is also the perfect home base for taking on some of El Salvador's most epic and otherworldly natural adventures. It has a great location, very close to many of the country's top travel destinations, and there is so much to do within an hour of the city. Starting the day with a coffee at one of Santa Ana's quaint cafes, and then coming back to have dinner at one of its many great restaurants, or just having street food and pupusas or ice cream in the plaza. It feels very nice and homey to go back to after an adventurous, off the beaten path escapade. And you've seen one of those getaways so far as we visited the thermal waterfalls of Malacatiupan, about 40 minutes away from Santa Ana. Halfway to those waterfalls, you have the Maya archaeological site of Tazumal. El Salvador has got a surprising amount of range. For a small country, there is so much to see and do. Perhaps the most famous is just outside of Santa Ana, and the one thing that drew me into the country in the first place. In this episode, we get to see El Salvador's diverse natural landscapes at its rawest and most beautiful, from vast volcanic crater lakes to its pristine Pacific coastline. We have explored some incredible places here so far, but you haven't seen anything yet. Here we are at the climax of our El Salvador adventures, about to head to the most iconic attraction in the country, a hike that I have had my eye on for nearly a decade. I skipped El Salvador on previous backpacking trips around Central America, dating all the way back to 2016, primarily due to safety concerns, but the country has undergone a metamorphosis in recent years and has done a full 180. It is now considered one of the safest countries in the region, if not the entire world. And despite the risks back then, I almost went anyway because this hike just seemed so different, the scenery so unique, like another planet. But here we are, better late than never, am I right? Let's head to Volcan Ilamatepec, the Santa Ana volcano. Although it is possible to reach the trailhead by local bus, the transportation options are infrequent and fairly limiting. Our host family offered to take us to the bus station at 6 a.m., but the schedule seemed tight and inconvenient, and we didn't want to rush through this beautiful hike just to try to make the 1 p.m. bus back to Santa Ana. It was also our last full day here, and we wanted to visit the Lago de Coatepeque after. It would have been difficult to do both in one day with just public transportation, so we opted to pay $25 each for a private driver for the day. It is a splurge considering the bus is just $3, but I'd say it was worth it to be able to hike at our own pace, not feel rushed, and also be able to combine it with a day trip to Coatepeque Lake. Since we didn't need to take the local bus, our driver picked us up at around 8:30 a.m. and we would cherish those extra 2 hours of sleep for the tough hike ahead. We drove for about an hour, leaving Santa Ana behind and soon entering the national park region, trying not to get carsick as our driver navigated the winding mountain roads, speeding through its many curves any chance he got. We pulled into the trailhead of the Volcan Ilamatepec hike where we paid our fees, of which I'm not fully sure what they were for. We paid 50 cents to some guy and then $3 to join the guided group trek, and we would pay another $3 later for our official entrance ticket into the national park. Our group was huge with around 60 people and 5 guides for the group of us. Since we splurged on the driver, we opted to join this guided group instead of having a private guide. Although I think the private guide might have been worth it considering just how slow moving and loud being in a large group is, it was a bit hard to disconnect and attune to the natural setting with so many people around. It was a bit of a shock because up until now we hadn't seen too many travelers in El Salvador. In this group alone there were more foreigners than we had seen in the prior week. This truly was the gem of El Salvador, and people from all over the world were here to trek the Santa Ana volcano. It was a slow and steady incline through the forest before we reached the entrance of the park, where we paid our entrance fee and began the hike up. The terrain was not too difficult, but unfortunately the weather wasn't fully cooperating with us, as we were stuck in a cloud for the majority of the trek. Apparently the views once you go above the tree line are remarkable, but we didn't get to see the surrounding volcanoes, lakes, forests, and scenery that we were hoping for. It was about an hour and a half to reach the crater of the volcano, an altitude of 2,381 meters above sea level. From the highest points of the crater, one could look down and see the laguna that sits about 200, 300 meters below. The turquoise color of the lake is otherworldly, especially in contrast to the deep, reddish brown of the crater's walls, a sheer drop and certain death for anyone who tiptoed too close to the edge. A truly dramatic landscape and very deserving of its international fame and popularity. With the main brunt of the group needing to catch the 1 p.m. bus back to Santa Ana, the crowds dwindled very quickly and made for a more peaceful, tranquil setting. I got to sit down and fly the drone for a little while and capture some stunning shots. This was my first time flying in almost 2 years, and being up at high altitude in windy, foggy weather above a volcano was certainly a choice. I got a little nervous, so I didn't fly too high or too far, but regardless, seeing an aerial view of the crater lake just gave scope to how breathtaking this place was. What an amazing place, just one of the many natural wonders that one can find here in El Salvador. I honestly could have stayed here for hours just watching the steam rise from the lake and the clouds moving quickly, constantly changing the views and the lighting. It was magnificent. However, we did not pack nearly enough snacks to sustain us for both breakfast and lunch, so our hunger compelled us to move on. We headed down and met back up with our driver, sweaty, dirty, hungry, but triumphant. Lunch could not come fast enough. This time we were thankful for our driver's aspirations to be in a Fast and Furious film, as he got us to Lake Coatepeque in probably record time. And wow, look at this place. This is exactly what you need after hiking up a volcano. The scenery is gorgeous and it is much more beautiful than I expected. Can you believe this entire lake is in a volcanic crater? Right now, I'd say Lake Atitlan is the current lakeside backpacker hotspot in Central America, but watch out because I can see Coatepeque becoming very popular in the future. There is a hostel here called Captain Morgan's, and I wish we had more time here because I've heard great things about this place. It would definitely be an amazing place to stay and enjoy the peaceful vibes of the lake and the beautiful views. For now, we didn't have too much time, so we hurried up and got lunch, some fresh fish for me, hopefully straight from the lake. It was delicious, and naturally, when you're all sweaty and covered in the dirt from the hike, you've got to dive into the lake. It is serene here, absolutely stunning, and just a perfect place to cap off an adventurous day filled with such diverse natural beauty. Lake Coatepeque is definitely somewhere that I want to come back to. I bet there are some incredible hidden gems of hiking trails, and the atmosphere here is just so relaxing, a great place to chill out for a few days. However, I will be heading to El Salvador's coast, so I'm not too upset about missing out on some lake time. Volcanoes, jungles, crater lakes, and now some beach time all in the span of a couple of days. El Salvador really packs a punch. The next morning, it is time to say goodbye to Santa Ana and take the bus back to San Salvador. We spend the night there before catching the local bus to the coast. Now that I am a seasoned chicken bus passenger, I don't even go to the bus terminal and I just wait on the side of the highway. It saves a decent chunk of travel time and it is smooth sailing to the coast. I'm on the bus for only an hour before we reach La Libertad, but I continue onwards a little further to the smaller, more colorful town of El Tunco, also known as Surf City. Here in El Tunco, El Salvador now, this tiny little beach town. I'm gonna try to find the beach. I don't know where I am really. It's a small town, but I kind of picked a hostel that was a bit further away from the beach because I booked it literally this morning, so there is not many options left. Here are the vibes. It's very, quiet, very tranquil. Here's the little beach shortcut to town. Ooh. I mean, it gets the job done. On the way to the beach right now. There's like 2 roads that take you there. This one's really cute. Flip. Wow. Yeah, you've got plenty of little restaurants. Very cute. Barba Blanca. Little hotel here. All these pink flowers, which I just adore. Made it to Playa El Tunco here in El Salvador. Kind of mid, but it's the vibes that matter, you know? It's painfully hot in El Tunco also. It's honestly pretty mid. Again, comes from being spoiled as a Filipino, but this beach is not great. The boardwalk's nice though, which is where we're on right now. As you can see, my initial impressions of El Tunco were pretty underwhelming. The beach is rocky, gray, covered in sticks and driftwood, but although it isn't the most spectacular beach, El Tunco is best known as being a top surfing destination in the region. It is home to many international surf competitions, and that is the main thing to do here: surf and party. I do love a good surf town though. It's kind of funny how all over the world, from the Philippines to Sri Lanka, to Mexico, to Ecuador, to El Salvador, you always know what to expect. They've always kind of got the same formula. It's almost copy and pasted every single time. There's always the colorful street art and street murals, a few backpacker hostels, a vibrant party scene, and then if we're getting real specific, there's always a cafe called Shaka, a vegetarian joint called the Green Spot or the Greenhouse, some place selling smoothie bowls, and it's called Point Break or Hang Ten, cute beachy markets, you know the drill, and I fall for it every single time. El Tunco is no different, and although my first impressions weren't great, I did end up loving El Tunco by the end. The vibes here are so laid back, easygoing, and it's overall just a lot of fun here. There are some amazing restaurants, really great seafood, and a pretty international offering. I saw some Asian restaurants, a bao place, Mexican street food. You can get all types of international food here, which was a pleasant surprise. It is probably the most expensive part of El Salvador that I visited. Pretty much every meal, if you were eating out, was going to cost you between $10 to $20. There are some good local spots too though, and I pretty much ate at this pupuseria every single night. Each pupusa was still about $1 to $2, and the camaron or shrimp was some of the freshest and best that I've had. Overall, if you are looking for barefoot beach vibes, beautiful sunsets, great restaurants, and a fun party scene, El Tunco is one of the best destinations, if not the best destination, that El Salvador has to offer. It's got a great setup for backpackers, digital nomads, surfers, and even short-term travelers looking for a quick vacation. So yeah, it pretty much caters to anyone who's looking for a little sand and sun. While El Tunco's beach wasn't the most impressive, there are a lot of nicer beaches along El Salvador's coast, and they aren't too far away from El Tunco. There are buses that go up and down the coastal highway, so everywhere is pretty well connected by public transportation, and the tourism infrastructure in this area is some of the best in the country. I ended up taking a day trip to the town of El Zonte, a little further along the coast, and I found the beach there to be much more beautiful, sandier, and better for swimming and relaxing. El Zonte, man, this place is stunning. I'd say it's much more beautiful than El Tunco. Look at this place. Now that's like the paradise beach vibe that I was expecting from El Tunco. This is where it's at. It isn't as developed as El Tunco, so if you are looking for something a little quieter, more local, and more authentic, El Zonte might be a good option. There are only a couple of hotels and restaurants here though, and the place I ate at was pretty mediocre. I think El Zonte is great for a day trip if you want to spend the day on the beach, but overall I was very happy that I chose to stay in El Tunco. There's just more to do, more variety and places to eat, shop, drink, hang out, and it's a lot more energetic. There are so many nice hotels, resorts, and hostels here too, and all up and down the coast actually. But like I said, I booked pretty last minute, so I ended up getting a cheap private room at this small guest house that only had 3 or 4 rooms. It was $25 a night, but it was nice and cozy, and the air conditioning was great, which is a must because El Salvador's coast is unbelievably hot. Unfortunately, the coast is also where our El Salvador adventures come to a close. The last few days taking it slow and relaxing by the beach were much needed after a very fast-paced itinerary that saw us going on some incredible excursions, from the surf towns, volcanoes, and crater lakes that you saw in this video, to trekking in the jungle and climbing up waterfalls, diving into secluded natural swimming holes. If you've been following along, you know what we got up to, but it's been incredible. From exploring the many sides of San Salvador, from its historic to the hyper-futuristic, to the Ruta de las Flores and its many volcanoes, waterfalls, and charming villages, with night markets and food festivals, and street art and cozy cafes. We explored thermal waterfalls, climbed to the rooftops of cathedrals, countless tuk-tuk and chicken bus rides, all of this and so much more. I'll put together a few more videos including my full itinerary and a guide for backpackers coming to El Salvador, but for now that is a wrap on the El Salvador Travel Diaries. It has been one hell of a ride, and I absolutely loved my time here. I know I'll be back one day because there is so much more to explore, and the people here are amazing, welcoming. I experienced such great hospitality and kindness here. It felt like home after just a few short days, and it really left its mark on me. Thank you for everything, El Salvador. Muchísimas gracias por todo. Hasta pronto. And thank you guys so much for watching and following along for the ride. Don't forget to hit the like button, drop a comment to let me know if you'd visit El Salvador, and subscribe so you can stay tuned for more of my life as a full-time nomad and my adventures across 80 countries and counting. Again, I'm also on pretty much every platform, Instagram, TikTok, my own websites, so check me out on there as well if you want to see more from my travels. Thank you guys for watching again. Desde el fondo de mi corazón, muchísimas gracias por su apoyo. Hasta pronto. See you all on the next video. Ciao.